So I completed Death Stranding 2 at the weekend, and I want to make a big video about the politics of it because I actually promised everyone that if my video on Death Stranding 1 got 10k views, I would do a follow up for Death Stranding 2, and it got nearly 40k views, so I'm obliged to make one. This isn't that. This isn't actually that. And I'm going to try and record this in one take because I really don't have time to make this video, but I really wanted to talk about Death Stranding 2. So it's going to be more like live stream vibe. I might take breaks to drink some water. I've just recorded another video for my main channel. But yeah, I stayed up really late Sunday. I did like basically an all weekend session to finish it because I'm leaving my PS5 behind because I'm moving away and I can't bring it with me. So my last few games have been Last of Us Part 1 for the third time, the remake for the first time, but the actual game for the third time. Last of Us Part 2, third time. And then Death Stranding 1, second time. Then Death Stranding. So that's all my gaming for the last like 4 or 5 months. And I've really enjoyed it, but I'm kind of glad to be free of just only playing like single player games where I'm proper locked in with my headphones and everything. But I did really enjoy it. I loved playing Death Stranding 1 again. That's why I made that video. And Death Stranding 2, like, I'm going to say when I'm going to talk about spoilers, but yeah, I loved it so much. I thought it was so good. I need to sit on it longer, but I think it could be Kojima's best. And I'm not saying that in terms of one specific element, because I can understand maybe like in the story of something or another game more. But I think as an overall package, I think it's one of my favorites. And you just know from the opening credits you're in for something special. And I was thinking this, and I posted this on Instagram. There's something so special about a Kojima game because he's built that I wouldn't call it aura, but he's built that pull where you know everything you're playing is because he wants it to be that way. There's no like profit incentive or sales expectations dictating anything in the game. It's literally just like, here it is, take it or leave it. I respect that so much. I know it is a luxury. Obviously, even with Metal Gear Solid 5, there are some cut content. You know it's not his singular vision. There's even like microtransactions in that because of Konami. But with Death Stranding 1 and 2, you feel like, okay, this is some guy's vision. And what I also liked about Death Stranding 2 compared to 1 is he didn't shy away from Metal Gear, because I felt like with Death Stranding 1, he's just kind of like, well, this is my new thing, right? So I don't want to be even associated with Metal Gear. So here's my new thing. Few little references to Metal Gear, but I'm going to kind of steer a bit away from it. The director's cut did have some bonus stuff, which kind of played into the Metal Gear stuff a bit more. With Death Stranding 2, it's actually like, here is the reference. Like, there is loads of Metal Gear Solid 4 references in here that lots of people wouldn't have got. I'll speak about that a bit later. There's Metal Gear 5 references. There's Metal Gear 2 references. There's so much Metal Gear in here. Even in the way it plays a lot of the time, you can play this like a stealth game in many ways. Tranquilized Silenced Pistol, I unlocked that earlier on. So I'm glad he's embraced his legacy, and I'm glad he's recognizing that, when you're like working with the same art director, it looks very similar. So much of the game looks very similar to Metal Gear. You can't just ignore it, and I'm glad he's not in this one. But yeah, just like every part of this, I just really love the soundtrack, the song choice, the tributes to like the singer of Low Roar, obviously, and putting those songs in the game, having actual churches in the game. It's not voiced by the band, but like having them with Scottish accents, putting the songs in, and yeah, it was just a great like experience. And I love a mystery to pull me in, and I did get all the twists. I did predict them way in advance, and I didn't watch any of the trailers or anything, so it's just from the game I inferred what the twists were. But it didn't really stop my enjoyment. There are some criticisms, some places where I thought the game could have been a bit better, some story threads that felt kind of bizarre to ignore from the first game. I'm mostly talking about Mads Mikkelsen's character not really being discussed, which I found kind of bizarre considering who he actually is. Won't spoil yet. So I also thought the setting like added so much diversity, because obviously Death Stranding 1 is set in America, but it's clearly inspired by like Iceland, right? Like it just looks like Iceland. And it's very much like snow or grassy rocks and water and stuff. Where the new game is like Mexico. That was refreshing. Gave me Metal Gear Peace Walker vibes. Like Mexican jungle, Mexican desert, and just even like some of the Spanish in the game. It was just like a really cool vibe to see the world expanded. I love Sam's apartment in it. And then obviously going to Australia, which is really diverse as well, but more focused on like hotter climates. But I thought it was such a great environment for the game, and there's so many little things added. Like, this is the non-spoiler section, so I'll talk about the gameplay. The monorail, I fucking love the monorail in this game. I love building it. I love riding it. So fun. And just the changes to the gameplay, like the combat, a lot better, a lot smoother to control. Still had some problems sometimes opening weapons. I feel that's a problem in both games. When you're panicking in a boss fight, trying to open a new weapon, it just doesn't work sometimes. But I liked how you could take your backpack off, and you could like really go fast when you're crouch running and stuff. The stealth was way better, and what I love about both Death Stranding games is they just add so much crazy shit in, and you know people are playing it so different to you because you have that section with the tar cannon and the fire, the forest fire. That is so cool. I love that part of the game. But you know people are still using the tar cannon for other things. The chiral cannon I used quite a lot actually. This like real crazy gun you can set up in one place and just like shoot through walls. That was pretty cool. And I just appreciate the variety. There's so many ways to go into combat encounters or even just play the game. The freedom is really nice. I will say, the way I play the game, it's too easy. I didn't die. I died once in the first boss fight because the boss ate me in a one-hit kill, and I didn't even know it could do that. That's the only time I died in the whole playthrough, and I was never close to dying any other time because you can just prepare so well for fights or big expeditions that you don't even need to utilize a lot of the systems. I'd say that's a flaw of both games as well. Like, I feel like even though sometimes there are limits placed on how you can traverse the environment, I felt like this game was even easier to manipulate. Like, especially the coffin board allowed me to negate a lot of the hard parts of the game, just going on the sea with the coffin board. The coffin board is insane, by the way, but like just having like this surfboard, hoverboard thing. And yeah, there's lots of things I didn't engage with, and I wish I could have because I was trying to complete the game before I leave. And leave my PS5 again behind. But I still did 60 hours. I thought the side quests were way better. There was actually more of an incentive to do the extra deliveries and the bonus content because the unlocks were so cool. So I just thought it was such an improvement. But also, what I really liked about this game as well is if you take Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom, right? I really, after completing both of them, I'd play Tears of the Kingdom again. I have completed Breath of the Wild twice, but I probably would never play that game again because Tears of the Kingdom is such an improvement, in my opinion. The first game feels like a tech demo. What I like about Death Stranding 1 and 2 is they really do exist on their own merits. And they are very similar. Like, they play like very similar. But what they're doing and how both are kind of structured is very different. Where I could go back and play Death Stranding 1 no problem. And I wouldn't feel like, oh my god, I'm limiting myself. Because the core is there and it's the same. But I feel like Death Stranding 1 is way more about on-foot traversal and stealth, like especially with how many BTs are in the game, these like ghost things, where Death Stranding 2 I feel like is more about construction, combat, and kind of playing the game however you want because there's so many options. So I feel like and also the vibe is so different between them and the story is so different. I feel like you can easily just go back and appreciate what 1 did well and what 2 did well, where I feel like sometimes with, I call them like iterative sequels, Horizon Zero Dawn versus Forbidden West, sometimes it's kind of hard to go back to the first one because it feels like the second one was such a leap. And although I feel like Death Stranding 2 is a better game, and I really appreciate the quality of life improvements, the gameplay, and even a lot of the story structure, I feel like they both exist in their own terms, and you can enjoy both. And if someone told me they prefer Death Stranding 1 to 2, I would feel like that is perfectly valid, right? But if someone told me they preferred Breath of the Wild to Tears of the Kingdom, I would be a bit confused by that because I'd be like, why would you play a game that feels not less complete, but it's just not, there's not enough to do in it, I don't feel like. And Death Stranding 2 certainly has more stuff, but I feel like overall 1 can exist in its own merits. So that's my gameplay overview. So spoilers. I'm going to talk about spoilers. I'm going to talk about spoilers. Full story spoilers for Death Stranding 1, full spoilers for Death Stranding 2. I don't give a fuck now. I'm going to spoil the game. I'm going to spoil this. I need to talk about this game. So, Death Stranding 1, I thought was really strong as a story. I mean, Kojima has clearly now got all of his, like, wannabe making games into movies out of his system. Metal Gear Solid 4 is, like, the polar opposite of MGS5, Death Stranding 1, and Death Stranding 2. And weirdly enough, I think he now has a format based on Metal Gear Solid 5 that he likes, which is the gameplay is not always related to the story. So you do lots of things like gameplay wise, and there's an overarching story that takes place when you finish things. So with MGS5, so much of the story took place when you come back to Mother Base. With Death Stranding 2, so much of the story comes back when you go back to the DHV Magellan, right? And with Death Stranding 1, it's kind of similar, but you're always kind of moving forward, where with Death Stranding 2 is a bit more of like moving all over the place. Kind of the nature of like the world map in the game. So that's what Kojima likes now, but there are still these big story moments. And what I do kind of like with both Death Stranding games and Death Stranding 2 as well, I like these little mini stories of the characters, and I thought they were really strong in Death Stranding 2. Like, I love the Rainy story. It's just such an interesting glimpse at like what the world is, because what you see in the game, you don't really get a good picture of what the everyday life for people is. But with Rainy, I just really like that story, and obviously like an amazing soundtrack and great performance as well. And then obviously the standout, I'll talk about this a bit later, Neil Varner and that story at the end. Not as good as Cliff from Death Stranding 1, but it was a good performance and I did really enjoy it. So I really enjoyed that. And the Death Stranding 1 story for Sam, I think, is stronger, because with Death Stranding 1, you obviously have, here is a guy, he lost his wife and child in this explosion 10 years before the game started. So he's basically cut off all contact with most of society, and he does this very lonely job as a porter doing deliveries, right? But he works for himself as well. He's not part of a company, he's not part of the government. And through the game and the gameplay, he connects America and he connects with all these people. And he even doesn't like people touching him, which he gets over through the game. And he finds his community and he like embraces the world again. And at the end of the game, he's even willing to sacrifice himself for the world. And it's a really nice evolution for the character, even though he doesn't talk much. He has that great speech at the end where it all comes together through your own gameplay experience and the character's own experience through the narrative. And it comes together with that. And also you have the experience of dealing with Cliff. And the Cliff stuff with Die Hardman at the end is like that. Die Hardman's like acting and speech is just fucking insane. And I feel like Sam's speech and Die Hardman's speech in Death Stranding 1 are not topped by anything in the story in Death Stranding 2. So I can understand why people don't like it as much. But when you start the game, you see those credits and you hear that Woodkid song, like you just know you're in for something. You know you're in for something special. Like you don't get this moment a lot of times in gaming. Like you know you're in for the peak of gaming right now. And it's just like it just fits so well everything. And I took my time in Mexico because I knew something bad was going to happen. Again, I didn't spoil anything for myself, but I just felt the vibe was bad. And obviously then we find out Higgs comes and he kills Lou, but he also kills Fragile. And you find out at the end, the big twist in the game is Fragile was dead the whole time. Or like her soul was her soul and her heart and car, what's that? Like your body and soul. I don't know. It was they were dying. Well, one of them was dead, and she was still had some time left before it caught up or something. And Sam dealing with his grief was nice, and it's kind of like a parallel to the first game where he, through his experience in Australia, is trying to embrace this community again, these new characters, old characters like Hartman, Die Hardman, and I liked his journey a lot. I liked tomorrow's character. Obviously, it's Lou. And I just liked being pulled along in this journey. I liked his relationships developing with like Fragile. And I just liked the community feel good vibes on the DHV Magellan. I liked the family he was growing. And I just enjoyed it. Like in some ways it was like a feel good game. Like you enjoy getting to know these characters and this experience. But I will say Sam is a bit less of a character in this one. He's more like the player, which my one criticism is Kojima is too self-aware in this one. And it breaks the fourth wall too much. And I feel like he's catering too much to the lowest common denominator by making the game even easier. And I like Dolman a lot as a character. Not so much his backstory, but just as a presence, I did appreciate Dolman, even though he did constantly break the fourth wall to talk to the player. But I feel like the Sam story wasn't as strong. But then we get to like the Sam, Lucy, and Neil Varner stuff. And I really like the Neil Varner stuff. It's so brief, but his character's just cool, right? So it's a guy, you guys will know this if you're watching this, hopefully. He is having an affair. He's having an affair with Sam's girlfriend, or I guess, is he having an affair with her because he's his therapist? She's pregnant with Sam's child, and he basically still gives his life to try and protect her. And even in death, he he protects Tomorrow because obviously he feels some sort of guilt because Lucy saved him when he was a kid. And it's just like the performance elevates the characters so much. And I feel like that with a lot of these characters is they might be a bit one note, but the performance is so good, you just really, really like them. But like I said, there is, even with the Die Hardman stuff coming back, it was fucking funny. Like, him being Charlie, I guess straight away because you can go in the menu and you can try and go to a different room and Charlie gets really funny. Like, he acts really weird. So you know that's where Die Hardman is probably hiding. But I really just like, I like them all as a collection, but I feel like the depth wasn't there as much as Death Stranding 1. And I just feel like Cliff and Sam and Die Hardman and Death Stranding 1 as this trio of characters gave it a lot more weight to the story. But I do think Fragile has been a good presence in both of them. I really do like her character in both of them. And I feel like just her arc of kind of like caring so much about Sam, she doesn't even want to tell him that she's basically dying. And she wants to spend her last months on the living world with Sam. I found that like a really nice touch. And Sam has just been through so much as a character. I feel really bad for him. So that's why it was nice to get the ending of, he finds out Tomorrow's his daughter, they reunite, and she goes off on her own Porter journey at the end. So it was a bit of a feel-good ending. I wouldn't say it was as bleak as Death Stranding 1. I will get into like the politics of it in a sec, but we have to give a shout out to Troy Baker as Higgs. So again, Higgs is a pretty one-note character in both games. Some sort of like extreme doomer nihilist. But his performance was fun in the first game. He is insane, like insanely good and insane in this game. The guitar shit is just absurd. But also him singing all the time. And holy shit, with the Metal Gear Solid 4 references with Higgs is crazy. Like when you're burning and crawling, it's obviously, old Snake in Metal Gear Solid 4, but Higgs singing to you while burning you, and then that boss battle at the fucking end. Holy shit, like, the guitar solos you're playing to each other. So insane. I was smiling the whole time. I was laughing the whole time. I loved it so much. Troy Baker was just, like, people have said it's his best performance. I would say it's hard to beat Joel in both Last of Us games, but especially the second one, in my opinion. But this maybe beats it. And it's weirdly, I've played loads of games with him in this year. He was really good as Indiana Jones. He's really good as Joel. He's good as Higgs in the first game. But he's just next level. Like, he has to win the awards at the Game Awards for best performance because so enjoyable. You love it when he's on screen. He's a crazy good singer as well. And even though he's singing pretty much the same song every time, he spices it up so much that it sounds different every time. So I really enjoyed that as well. And the cutscenes in this game are so fun to watch. I would just say, compared to Death Stranding 1, that's quite serious. This is a lot of fun. And the insanity makes it fun. So I would say there's a lot more mass appeal in this game compared to the first one. More of an action game. Cutscenes are crazy. Loads of ninja stuff. Even the enemies being like these weird robot things now, like these puppets. I just think there's more to like for like your action fans rather than the first game is a bit more niche. And to be honest, as someone who loved the first game even when it came out, it was a bit of a niche thing that has become very, very popular. And I think Death Stranding 2 has really elevated it to something more of a cultural staple in gaming. Kojima's always going to do that. But let's talk about the politics a bit more. So even the political message, I didn't vibe with as much, but it's more to do with AI, I guess. So if you guys didn't understand, there's a thing called APAS, which has been like taken over bridges, basically. So in the first game with bridges and the UCA, you're connecting America with porters. That APAS basically automates it all, right? And in the game, you're working for APAS and you're connecting Australia, and the president, who seems to be some weird AI thing. It's like an AI based on like the souls of 4,000 people who died in a void out. Again, Death Stranding weirdness. He's saying that the future of humanity is basically in the chiral verse or the metaverse or AI, right? Like all humans are going to transcend into AI and be immortal, but it's going to stop human evolution and it's going to stop void outs and it's going to be the ultimate safety for humanity because if you come into contact with a BT, you can cause some massive explosion, right? So we get rid of that by all becoming AI and basically being all one in this metaverse thing. But Kojima is obviously rejecting that because Die Hardman comes in and he rejects it with his insane song and dance. And Sam and his friends reject it. And I guess like I'm still reflecting on what the message of this game is. It is like anti-AI, anti-metaverse, but I guess what it's emphasizing in response to the overwhelming technological onslaught from Silicon Valley of AI, metaverses, all these experiences that are not real, is the human connection is so important. And we shouldn't forget that. And we have to unite as humans, not unite in some sort of like metaverse, in some chiral verse, and strip ourselves of humanity. Because I think even with Die Hardman popping up and doing his dance, right? So fucking stupid, so funny. But it's kind of like a fuck you to the AI of like, well, you can't do something like this, so I'm going to do it. Because he was pretending to be this Charlie thing the whole time. So I guess that is part of the message. I need to think about it a little bit more. You have the even more cynical take on the US government in this game, which is, pretty, in with tradition of Kojima games, where the UCA and Bridges are even more evil than you thought they were. You thought it was just Bridget in the first game killing Cliff, but it's actually all of them because they were trying to build the chiral network based on sacrificing BBs, and Neil Varner's goal or task was smuggling in what I forgot what they called, still mothers, to be used to this end, right? And that's all revealed in the game through like Hartman and other people. So there is that cynical aspect of the US government as well. But I need to think about this more because this is my like response to just finishing it. I need to think about the politics of it a little bit more. I do think it's in line with the first game. Kojima did say he rewrote the game after COVID or after the initial waves of COVID because it like destroyed what he was trying to say. So I'm really interested to think about how different this game was before the pandemic influenced him so much. But the one criticism of the story I would have, so Neil Varner I really like as his character and he's really interesting. How is Cliff not mentioned in this game? Cliff, for those of you who probably don't remember, Cliff Mads Mikkelsen is Sam's dad. He's Sam's dad and Die Hardman's old commander, who Die Hardman, he didn't kill himself, but was ordered to kill. And it's such a big part of the first game, right? And even when Sam goes to the like death realm for Neil Varner the first time, he doesn't even say to Dolman, I've been to one of them before. Like, my dad was so enraged about how he died, he just kept clinging on. And this is why I kept seeing him. I don't know why they didn't explain it. And Die Hardman not talking about it is like, you did not leave on good terms with Sam. You were literally crying and sniffling because you had been lying to him and you were there when his dad was killed and even when Sam was killed, actually. That's why Sam, I think, is a repatriate, because Bridget shot Cliff and Sam when he was a baby. So I feel like that was weird because there's a lot in the game that's kind of like, oh, you didn't play Death Stranding 1, so here's how we're going to explain things to you. And I feel like sometimes it even feels like a remake of Death Stranding 1. I know that's weird to say. That's what Tears of the Kingdom felt a little bit like as well. It's kind of like self-aware enough. They realise you maybe haven't played the game before. And I don't think I always like that, to be honest. Especially when it comes from a series like Metal Gear Solid, where to understand Metal Gear Solid 5, you literally have to have played all the games for like 25 years. And now we're playing Death Stranding 2, and it's acting like some parts of Death Stranding 1 didn't even happen. It was also weird not to have Lochner back. I know Margaret Qualley is probably like busy and maybe doesn't even want to be back in the game. Was weird. But I did enjoy seeing like Deadman again. I love how much Sam loves Deadman as well. Like when he hugs him again, when he possesses like Hartman's body. I do like that. And yeah, the soundtrack, like I'm just spitballing now. Like the soundtrack I really enjoyed. The Woodkid stuff I really enjoyed. I would say the score doesn't have as much of an identity as the first game, but they do use a lot of the same like musical riffs in the second one, so it feels like very consistent. I wouldn't feel like it's as iconic with some of the music, but obviously, got some great songs in there, some new artists I've enjoyed since I've heard them in Death Stranding, and I feel like Kojima's embracing music more since Metal Gear 5, really. And I'm here for it because I like a lot of the songs anyway, like Churches. Like I know those songs anyway. There's a song called Nightmares by Churches, which is from their director's cut of their last album. I like that song, and my girlfriend really likes Caroline Polachek. Can't say I'm a fan, but the song's growing on me from the game, and overall, like 60 hours. I wish I could have played more. There's so much stuff I wish I could have done before finishing it. but just like so satisfying. And I would say, unlike Death Stranding 1, where I would say it's the sum of its parts, but I would say it has a very strong central narrative. I would say Death Stranding 2 really is just like good all across the board, but it makes the game really special and it has that quirkiness that really helps that. But I would say Death Stranding 1 excels with the premise and the story and the central narrative a lot more, where Death Stranding 2, just the overall experience is better. Like everything just works better. It's has those more memorable gameplay moments, and Troy Baker just like steals the game, right? It just going insane in this game, and it just makes it so memorable. Like Sam is likable, we like his journey. I feel like Norman Reedus, there was the speech to be had there. There was another speech to be had, like his speech in the first game, talking about maybe Lou and getting over Lou's death and all this stuff. I feel like there was a little bit more to the character, and there's a little bit more to be said about Cliff in this game. Even when at the end, you know, when they're trying to like save tomorrow and you see them all in the scene, like the underwater bit, Neil Varner comes to that. I would have liked to see Cliff there. Maybe Lucy as well. I think it would have been a nice little moment to see Cliff come back. Like, I really like that character. I think the strongest character elements are Die Hardman, Sam and Cliff, and Fragile. So I would have just liked to see that dynamic play out a bit more. But even like I said, I think Higgs is the perfect like representation of Death Stranding 2 just being so great, even if it doesn't feel that deep. And I would say there are lots of deeper meanings in Death Stranding, both games, and I appreciate how much it forces you as the player to think about your own death and mortality. There's so many great moments, especially cutscenes in this game, but I feel like Higgs's character represents the best of it, right? Insane design, insane shit he does, like the guitar gun, the singing. But if you wrote that down and said that to someone, it might not be that impressive. It's not complex at all. But when you actually play it and you're in that world and you experience it, it's 10 out of 10. It's insane. And I feel like that's what Kojima's done with Death Stranding 2. Less ambitious in terms of the story, but everything is just like firing on all cylinders. And it's just like an amazing experience. And I could talk about this a lot more, but yeah, the gameplay changes and the social interaction as well. Like, I can't forget that when playing Death Stranding, like the community building, how we're all helping each other play in this game. It's still there. It's even better this time. There's so much more to do. There's so much more ways to help each other. I was definitely actually helping people more in this game. Like, it was consciously a decision from me to be like, I'm going to try and build more stuff. I built this structure on the way to Hartman's lab from like the Golden Fist lab, and it's just like loads of zip lines. Came in really handy in the game, but it's nice to see people liking that in the profile thing. So yeah, I would just say, yeah, the Death Stranding games are special, and I feel very lucky that I got to play both of them. Like, I literally finished Death Stranding 1, and 4 days later, Death Stranding 2 came out, like, for the second time, and I hadn't completed the game since 2020, like, early 2020. So it was a really nice refresher. And also, there's something I really love about playing games as I'm getting older. Like, I appreciate, like, you know, when you're 24 and you play something, it's very different when you're 29. I know that sounds bizarre to maybe older people, but your 20s, you develop your mind so quickly and you change so much. Playing something when I'm like 20 and 29 is such a different experience. And I'm very happy I got to play that again. And together as a package, like, there's just nothing like these games. And I'm so happy they exist. And I would just tell everyone to just enjoy them, because it's very rare that every aspect of a game, from soundtrack to score to game mechanics to stupid things that happen to little quirks to the script to the references, you can tell it's one guy with no filter. And that is for better or worse. But I feel like now he stumbled upon a formula which is less divisive. And like, if I'm honest, I prefer old Kojima. Like, I would like a Death Stranding game that's like Metal Gear Solid 4 or Metal Gear Solid 3. But this works, I think, for more people. And I do really enjoy them. And I think the gameplay aspect, and that's what I guess people care about more these days, I think that's what people will remember this game for more than anything. But yeah, I feel like he goes there with the questions as well. Like, this world is so wild, but I think also, like with any crazy concept, a sequel like benefits it because it's normal in your head now. Like, you understand the concepts, even though they're fucking insane. it's normal in your head and you can rationalize it in terms of the world building, even the stuff with the tar currents and just like all the crazy fucking shit in this game. But yeah, like I'm gonna reflect on this game a bit more, think more about the politics, the philosophy, but ultimately love the game, love the performances, loved pretty much everything about it. Like it's rare to come away from a game and think about like I can't actually think of anything I'd really change, like the flaws. I think the main things I'd change are some, not even what the story did or how the story went. I don't mind that at all. Like the actual narrative, I don't mind at all. It's just there's little things I would add in and maybe cut down on other things to do with fourth wall breaking to, I think, make the narrative a bit stronger and coherent with this first game. But I also appreciate I'm coming straight from a second playthrough of the first game, so that's all really fresh in my mind. And then I'm directly comparing it to the sequel, where the one thing I would say I don't like about Kojima in this game is he's very self-aware about the gamer, and that's obviously his choice, right? He's not doing that for profit reasons or for popularity, but he's very conscious about the player in too many ways to do the story, which I don't like. And that's why, like him or don't, Metal Gear, and even the ending of Death Stranding 1, which I don't think people love the bit when you're running on the beach for like 20 minutes, but I like that in the way it's like, you didn't give a fuck. Like, you don't care what people think of this. It's just what you wanted to do. And obviously, I always feel like what he does, but it's a lot more palatable, I think, the ending of the second game where you're having a fucking huge guitar fight. Like, it's Ocelot versus Old Snake in MGS4, right? You're playing the greatest hits, which is fine. But sometimes I prefer something a bit more out there, which is like the ending of Metal Gear Solid 2, for example. Even one I didn't like, the ending of Metal Gear Solid 5. Like, I hated the twist in that. I've come to enjoy it a bit more as time's gone on, but yeah, I really didn't like it when I first played it because I was so invested in Big Boss. So, but I respect it. I respect it still. But I feel like I wouldn't call it self-plagiarism. I wouldn't call it self-plagiarism in the sense that, like, there are certain people who do self-plagiarise, right? I don't think Kojima does that, but I do think, sorry, sometimes playing on concepts again and again and not in a better way, like with Metal Gear Solid 5 compared to Metal Gear Solid 2, I don't know. Sometimes isn't for me. But yeah, let's just hope Kojima has a few more left in him. It would be a sad day when he retires and stops making games. And this is just like a special product. It's just a guy he has that influence. He can get everyone he wants to work with him, and he makes what he wants. And I feel like out of all of his games in a long time, like this is the one that is the most even consumer friendly. I think a lot of people are going to enjoy this one, and I think this is going to boost Death Stranding's profile. And also, what I would say is, I love the glimpses into the actual like world of this game, like through Rainy and Nirvana. Give me Edge Runner style anime. Give me like a TV show. I want more of this world, and it's giving me the glimpses that I'm like, okay, I'm invested now. I understand it now. Give me more. I want more, and I'm hoping the movie's good as well. So yeah, that is it for the video. I might title this like Leftist Gaming Podcast episode 4 because I'm talking about games again. But let me know what you guys think in the comments, and if you made it this far, thank you for watching.